All right, guys, let's get to the Cavaliers here. Jason, let's start with you. When you look back at last night's game, which was ugly for much of the night, but a great comeback. Obviously, Celtics without Tatum, without
Save
Horford.
me the
Anything?
great comeback
Nothing?
crap. Save me that great comeback
Not doing it
crap.
for you.
I ain't doing it. That was no such thing as a terrible win. That was not a good win, though.
Okay.
Like, it's a win. It counts the win column. Put it in the win column. That wasn't a good win. You're playing a Boston team who was in double overtime the night before. They're without Tatum and Horford. You should be up 15, not down 15. Like, they're young and they're immature, and eventually they have to stop playing this way. Like, they have to stop digging these holes for themselves.
It's been a consistent thing all year. Even when they were playing consistently better, we saw this a lot.
The Golden State game is the prime example.
Yeah.
Being at home, and they played nobody. They sat everybody.
Right.
And Cavs were embarrassed at home. And last night had that same feel to it. And, Boston just ran out of gas in the fourth quarter. And tech subscribers, because I was texting with you guys all night last night, and I had Joe sitting next to me. Joe Varden sitting next to me at the game. Going into the fourth quarter, I think the Cavs were down 12. And he said, they're going to win. Cavs are going to win this game. Like, Boston has no legs left. And I was down on him. I said, no. I agree that Boston's cooked, but the Cavs just don't have it. And he was right. Like, Boston just totally ran out of gas at the end. Grant Williams, this is funny. Grant Williams, of course, missed the 2 free throws at the end of the game. Donovan's talking trash to him. He got out of there so fast last night, I honestly think he may have been in his jersey sitting on the bus waiting for everybody else. Because the Boston
Like it's high
Riders,
school.
the Boston Riders got over the locker room like,
Yeah.
where's Grant? And they kept waiting. He was gone. He was out of there. So he definitely didn't shower. Definitely did not shower after that game.
Come on, hey, that's
It's 50-50. He was sitting on the
Allegedly.
bus in his jersey.
That's a party foul. Come on, Grant.
no way that-
You played
no
over
way.
30 minutes.
Ain't no way that man showered and got out of that locker room that fast.
Do you feel the same way as Jason?
Yeah,
Or are you a
yeah.
little more optimistic? No.
Well, it's not as if I'm down on the Cavs, but I just don't know where this type of mindset comes from, right? You look at it, it looks like Donovan's playing hard. It looks like when you look at it, I think Evan Mobley played pretty well. I just don't know why that mindset would be where at this point, you're a young team, you're trying to fight for what you want to do in the league. You understand that you collapsed a little bit down the stretch last year. You just want to, I would expect those guys to say, by all means, we're going to come in this year and we're going to take care of business, and we're not going to forget what happened last year. And it just seems like sometimes when they come out, another team has more energy, more fight, more effort. And I'll be honest, without Stevens, they was dead.
Yeah, he was
because
great.
he brought in some energy. He brought in that toughness and the grit.
Yeah.
And he looked like he wanted to play. He looked like he had something on the line a little bit.
Well, and kudos to the Cavs and the referee for icing Grant Williams there on that last
wow.
free. Do you know that from the time he missed the first basket until he got the ball, not the time he shot, from the time he missed the basket until the time he got the ball was 40 seconds.
Wow.
How does that happen? The Cavs kept moving around. Donovan Mitchell clearly got in his head.
Some of
don't
it's
you think?
gamesmanship. They had a lot of
Yeah.
substitutions,
Yeah.
and so that draws out the time. Donovan said, I'm trying to make something out of nothing, just trying to
Yeah.
do anything to get in the guy's head. But Donovan also made a huge mistake at the end of the game that nobody's talking about today. Marcus Smart came crashing in on the second miss because Donovan wasn't paying attention to him. If Marcus tips that in,
Yes.
what conversation are we having today?
I
It's a
did
lot
hear
different.
that he admitted that he screwed up.
Yeah. I mean,
admitted
it was. Well, he's good about that.
Yeah,
Like Donovan's
yeah.
going to tell you if he blows it.
Right.
But that's why I'm saying, like, it wouldn't, like, they got lucky. They just escaped with one. And I was talking to him after the game, and I said, like, what do you want to get out of the regular season? And Donovan just said, like, wins. We're just stacking wins. We want home court. Like, we're not running from that. We want home court advantage. And he said something interesting. He said he read where the Boston guys felt like part of the reason they made it to the finals was because of how many home games they had and how many games they had at the Garden last year, and it makes a difference and it helps. But I told him, I said, like, it just feels to me like you just bail them out too often. Like, this is just a young team that looks to Donovan and says, okay, we're going to wait for you to go make a play.
Yep.
And this is too talented of a team for them to play that way.
You know, guys, I agree with most of what you said. You watch this team, and it's like the first half of the year, they were so fun to watch. And I feel like I'm not having fun watching them play anymore.
Part of it is it's 82 games.
I guess that's part of it.
It really is a
right?
lot of
And
it.
you're like, okay, it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks till
Right.
the playoffs start. Let's get there. The thing is, like, we know Boston and Milwaukee and who am I forgetting? Philadelphia to some degree. Like, we know that those are seasoned playoff teams.
Yeah.
We know that they know what it's like to play in the playoffs. The Cavs have no idea. So, like, part of me is like, okay, well, these games don't matter at this point. Like, I know you want home court against the Knicks, even though the Knicks have been great on the road. So it's probably more important to the Cavs than the Knicks. But like, so what? It's the regular season, the playoffs start in a month. But I don't know that the Cavs know how to turn that switch.
They don't.
Right?
They don't. And I said this morning, it kind of like fell into my head. It kind of feels this year's like the Cavs are repeating fourth grade because they didn't get that experience last year.
Right.
So this feels like all the conversations we were having last year about young team, playoff experience, they need that playoff experience. Well, we're having the exact same conversation again because they didn't get it last year. Those playing games are trash. That doesn't count.
Right.
And JB needs the experience. We've said, how many times have we said that on the show? JB needs a playoff series to go through the machinations of what it's like to face the same team over and over and over. So until we get there and until these guys experience it, it's just sort of like Groundhog Day. We're having the same conversations and we're just waiting for the bell to ring in April.
And how interesting is it that, I mean, it looks like it's something weird, unless something weird happens, that they're going to play the Knicks in the first round.
I'm not so sure about that. I just think, I mean, yeah, as we sit here today, it looks that way. Philly's got a hard schedule. If you look at like,
oh, you think the Cavs might move ahead of Philly?
I mean, the Cavs have the easiest schedule the rest of the way, by far.
Right.
The easiest schedule. Now, the Knicks are also down pretty low in terms of easy schedules, but the Sixers have one of the hardest schedules still ahead. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility.
Okay, but just stay with me for a second.
And
real quick, Bull, just to give people context,
Yeah.
they're 2.5 games behind the Sixers for third, and a game and a half up on the Knicks for fifth.
Right.
So there is wiggle room, just so people
No,
understand.
I know that, but if they finish fifth and the Knicks finish fourth, they'd still
Yeah,
play
no,
the
I'm
Knicks.
just saying, so people, when you explain your scenario, they know exactly how much.
First of all, who was the tiebreaker between the Cavs and the Sixers?
They play again next Wednesday.
What's the season
home.
series right now? I don't
At home, I believe.
It's 1-1.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 1-1. Whoever
Okay, so whoever wins that will have the tiebreaker. So if the Cavs lose that game, they probably don't get the third seed. Probably. Because they wouldn't have the tiebreaker. But anyway, if they play the Knicks, first of all, it's the team that Donovan Mitchell really wanted to go to. It's his hometown team. And number two, like, it's an interesting matchup of coaches because the Cavs are way more talented than the Knicks. And Tom Thibodeau, and I think you said this the other day, like, he wears out his welcome eventually. But
he's a hell of a coach.
But he's a great coach, and, like, they're playing great basketball right now. I don't know if that's going to translate into the playoffs.
Right.
But, like, Jalen Brunson's playing like a superstar.
He is.
People were saying that was the worst signing of the offseason. It's been a great signing.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, for me, even though the Knicks are playing the best basketball of the season right now, it's the best case scenario for the Cavs. Because I feel like if you get Donovan Mitchell in a series with his hometown team, the Knicks
He'll be hyped to play.
He'll be hyped to play. The Knicks have to play over their heads because actually the Cavs are a much better talented team, way more talented team, in my opinion, than what the Knicks are. Julius Randle, I like him. I'm not a believer in Julius Randle and if he could be your best player winning multiple series in the playoffs. To me, if they get the Knicks, I expect the Cavs to win that series. And to be truthful, JB has to win a game on the road.
It feels like, doesn't it feel like his career, maybe not his career, but his Cavs career is on the line? Because if you lose to the Knicks, I just don't see how they bring him back. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I don't think it's a foregone conclusion he's fired if they lose in the first round, but it's certainly a conversation. And it's also like the old adage is, okay, if you're going to fire him, who are you going to go get? Well, there's some pretty high-level NBA head coaches available right now. Frank Vogel's out there. And I said this morning. This isn't just Cleveland having this conversation. There's a lot of teams around the league having this conversation.
Yeah.
Who's our guy? Is Frank better? Frank Vogel's a highly respected NBA coach. Obviously, there's the Ime Udoka conversation out there. So a lot of teams have to have some really hard conversations. Now the Cavs really don't fire people anymore because Dan is removed and it's a completely different ownership structure.
Yeah.
And they don't really fire people. And Kobe and JB have the same agent, and there's a lot. It's a deep-rooted thing. It's not as flippant as, well, we lost in the first round, we have to move on. I do think it's worth having that discussion. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. But, you made a good point. Cavs are going to have to win a game on the road. Like, I don't think, as good as they've been at home, they're a young team. I don't see them sweeping home.
Right.
So even if you have home court, you still have to win a game on the road, and going to Madison Square Garden and winning there with that crowd, with this young team, is a big ask.
Especially in the
Crowd's going to be
spring.
electric.
Yeah.
What do you make of the Knicks being better on the road than at home? I mean, that's very rare in the NBA.
It's just one of those weird things that every once in a while there's just weird things that happen that you really can't explain. I mean, when the Garden is rolling, that's a phenomenal environment.
It's still a dump, but it's...
Oh, it's a total trash hole. Yeah, they need to knock it down. Problem is, what are you going to do?
You can't do that.
Yeah.
I guess the Knicks could play in Brooklyn for
Well,
2 years.
you have to go to Barclays and rebuild on the same site because I just don't know where there's space in New York to build another one. But it's a dump.
Go ahead, Mike. Did you have something?
Well, two things with the Knicks.
Yeah.
They've had some very fortunate scheduling, which doesn't totally play into it, but they haven't had a ton of back-to-backs in Miami like the Cavs are about to do, or in Los Angeles. So their West Coast road trips haven't been as staggered as some of the other teams, which helps. But also, G mentioned Lamar Stevens a little while ago.
Yeah.
And Jason, we talked a little last night. Bull, I haven't talked to you about this. I think Stevens kind of has to be in some way, shape, or form in the playoff rotation because of the intangibles he brings to this team. He was plus 18 in 17 minutes yesterday. He makes the hustle plays. He does the little dirty things. Not a great shooter. And as Jason will tell us in a sec, it might be tough to play him and Okoro together in the same game, not necessarily on the court at the same time.
Right.
But there's something about him, G, that dog factor that I think the rest of the team lacks.
Yeah,
that he brings.
Love it.
I mean, it's not like these other bench guys are doing much anyway. What do you think about how much he should play?
I campaigned for Lamar to be the starter at the 3.
Yes.
I said earlier this year, roll with Lamar. Like, you don't need much out of that. And we saw last night the way he extended possessions, especially toward the end of the game, getting huge offensive rebounds. That's all you need from that spot. And the debate Mikey and I were having, I agree. I think Lamar's earned a spot. I'm having like flashbacks to 2018 and watching Jordan Clarkson and Rodney Hood play for the Cavs in the playoffs.
Right.
And they were 2 black holes out there.
Oh,
You got nothing out of them.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Okoro and really Stevens sort of that same way is offensively. You're not getting – and I don't know – teams just blatantly disregard Okoro when he's on the floor. Cavs are playing 4-on-5 offensively. Yeah. It is so hard to play that way in the postseason when the game slows down, when you're in half-court sets, when you're playing 4-on-5. And if you have Lamar out there subbing in for Isaac or whatever, you're pretty much playing 48 minutes 4-on-5. That's a tough way to go. So I think one of those guys is probably going to fall out. I think I would prefer Lamar Stevens over Isaac Okoro.
I totally feel – I love the fact that you said that over Isaac Okoro because there's one difference to me, Bull. When you look at Isaac Okoro and his demeanor, he's a nice dude. I like him. He's a good kid. But here's the problem. Stevenson has that he looks like he's out there and he has one mindset. Like, no, you're not about to score. I'm going to be in you. I'm about to be, I'm about to be all in your area, all in your space.
Bunk.
Hello, 3 in a row.
Yeah. And so my thing is, if he hits a couple shots, because when he starts playing defense, it seems like it unlocks his offense. Like, he shot that 3 in the corner, and I thought that was a huge bucket. And I'm like, okay, they left him alone. He's shooting awesome. But I'll tell you what, I like the fact that he has more grit. He's a little bigger. He's a little nastier. And if you play him in the playoffs, I can see him playing. No one guards Giannis.
Yeah. Well, and it's a good point that you both make because you don't want to play them both, as you said, because it
certainly can't
sucks
play them
for the
both
rest
together.
of the team.
Yeah, you can't play them together, certainly.
That for 48 minutes you don't have to guard 8. So if you're only going to play one, what is the case for playing Okoro over Stevens?
If this was flipped and Okoro was undrafted and Lamar was the 5th overall pick, it wouldn't be a discussion.
Yeah. So essentially, the only reason to play him is because he got drafted, which is stupid. Who cares about that now? It's irrelevant.
I mean, Okoro has certainly improved this year. Mm-hmm. He has gotten better.
Right.
And I've been hard on him, so I want to credit him. He is a little bit more confident in his shot now. He got hot for a couple weeks where he was making and you kind of thought like maybe this is him turning the corner.
Right.
He's never going to be a productive, prodigious scorer. If he could even get to 33, 34%, 35%, I'd say 35% from 3, you'd have a real weapon there as a 3-and-D guy. But I don't think he trusts his shot. Other teams certainly don't fear him.
Right.
So it kind of is what it is. And Lamar, I just think, kind of gives you a little bit more than Okoro does. Same type of player, and I think Lamar gives him more.
You ain't got to run nothing for him. And I like that in the playoffs. In the playoffs, they're gonna leave him open, but you ain't got to run nothing for him. All you tell him to do, hey, we're going to run the floor, but when you get guys, if you happen to play Middleton, I need you to body him up. If you happen to play a game where you got Tyler Hero, I don't want no
We got to
open
get past
shots.
the Knicks first.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
but or whoever they end up playing in the first round. But the thing is, okay, so let's say JB goes that way. Let's say Lamar Stevens becomes a starter. Okoro's out when we come to the playoffs. So now we know who our starting five is. We know we got Rubio coming off the bench. We know we got LeVert coming off the bench. Who else is playing in the playoffs?
Ricky was terrible last night.
He was.
Oh, yeah.
He was terrible.
And he hasn't been the same guy this year.
And Dean Wade has not been good.
Oh,
Nope.
Dean Wade
like
is
they
almost
moved on
unplayable.
from Kevin Love
Yeah.
for Dean Wade.
Yeah.
And Love,
I know he got off to a bad start. I don't know what he's done the last couple of games there. I haven't looked.
who,
Not a
Kevin?
lot.
Yeah.
Kevin, he's had some big
He had
rebound
one
games.
good game. He had one really good
Listen,
game.
I'm by no means, this is not prime Kevin Love anymore, but
No.
I'm just saying Dean's giving him nothing
Yeah.
right now. And I would rather have the playoff experience and someone in the locker room with Kevin's acumen
Right.
over
So you think
if
they
have
made a
to pick.
mistake?
I think it.
Taking him out of the rotation.
Well, no, I'm withholding. See, I understand why they did it because they've seen bad Kevin before, and bad Kevin when he's not playing could be even worse. So
Yeah.
I get it, but I do think it was very risky. And I'm not saying it was a mistake yet. I want to see how the rest of this plays out. We're not going
Right.
to know if it was a mistake until we get to the end.
And again, he's not doing much.
But it was a risk, and
Yeah.
Dean Wade has not played well.
I think the guys that they're going to dwindle it down to Ricky Rubio. You're going to get Karis LeVert. You're going to get Jetty. I think those are the three.
Jason, you hate Jetty. You are the
hate-
president of the Jetty Haters fan club.
I
That's
think those are the
not
three.
True. That's not
not
true.
kidding.
And you start Stevens, right? So
Yeah.
now you got 8.
So is Jetty the eighth? You agree with that too?
I do think he's going to play 8.
Yeah.
And it shrinks even tighter the deeper you go.
Danny Green's not in the mix.
Yeah, Danny, I was high on the signing. I want to see if he had anything left.
Yeah.
The fact he can't even get on the floor
Right.
tells me the Cavs have come to the conclusion he didn't have anything left. He can't move. I would like to see Lamar as the 3. I don't think he's going to be the 3. I think
Right.
it will be Okoro, at least to start. And if he gives them absolutely nothing, maybe they have to go make a move. But, yeah, I mean, I think Rubio is definitely one of the 3 off the bench. I think Jetty's probably one of the 3 off the bench.
LeVert.
LeVert,
Yeah.
yeah.
So wait a second.
But there's really no size
If they
in those
don't
3.
take Okoro out of the mix, is Stevens still in the mix, or do you think he's going to decide on one of them and the other guy doesn't play in the playoffs?
That's what me and
essentially?
Jason were going back and forth on last
Yeah.
night. And Jason, I'll let you answer, but essentially, I said I thought there was a way you might be able to play both, kind of sub them back and forth. But Jason made the point. That's 4 and 5 for 48 minutes.
Nah,
It's hard to win that way.
It's only one or the other.
So here's what I would say about Lamar. Remember Dante Jones came in the NBA Finals game and made like 2 or 3 really big impact plays
Yep.
and got to have it moments. Maybe Lamar is that guy where you're just looking for just a punch right now. You're just looking for a little bit of injection right now and a little bit of bring us some sort of energy, and he can make the Dante play going into halftime. Or he can give you – I don't think he's part of the rotation, but maybe he can give you 2 really good minutes. And then maybe eventually if Okoro disappears like I'm afraid he might, then maybe Lamar overtakes him for that spot. I don't think they're going to play Lamar heavy minutes in the postseason, though, and Okoro.
Don't you think Lamar plays with a lot more confidence than Okoro does?
He does. He plays like an undrafted guy.
Right.
Like he plays like a guy fighting for his life, fighting for his
Yeah.
career.
he looks.
I'm a big Lamar guy. And Dean too. Like I give the Cavs credit. This organization in the past has really struggled with identifying undrafted guys, developing them, making them key pieces. Excuse me. And Lamar and Dean Wade have both been those guys that they kind of picked off the trash heap and turned into productive NBA players.
What's your confidence level that they, as constituted, win a first-round series?
I
still waffle.
I
still
think
waffle
less than
50%.
50%.
I'm like 48 to 52%.
Yeah.
I think they have the fart. If it is New York, they have a much more talented roster, I believe. But I would give the coaching edge to New York, and I don't know that the Cavs can go in the Garden and win a game. And I think they're going to need to win at least one in the Garden.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question on that real quick?
Yeah.
Of course.
About that, Jason. And we saw this in the chat, so I'm going to bring a chat comment in. Whenever we do that, it's brought to us by PCC Airfoils. Looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits? PCC Airfoils is a leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils in Eastlake, Menor, Wycliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. Jason, you mentioned Bickerstaff maybe having a disadvantage against Thibodeau in a coaching matchup. Where on the tiers do you think Bickerstaff ranks? Tier 1 probably Pop, Spo, one or two other guys. Is he a tier 2, a tier 3 guy? I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, I don't think we know.
Thibodeau or Bickerstaff?
Bickerstaff.
Oh.
I don't know how you can put him tier 2 even without
can't.
any playoff experience.
He's never
Like
coached
that's
a
where
playoff game. How do you know?
that's where these guys make their bones.
Yeah.
Like I've screamed it. I'll continue to scream it into the clouds. Biggest mistake the Cavs made throughout this whole thing was firing Ty. Like Ty is a playoff postseason coach.
Right.
His ability to scheme and get guys off the floor and run ATOs,
Right.
that is his wheelhouse. And I don't know if JB's in that, or not. I mean, you can't put him any higher than tier
I think
3
it's
right
incomplete.
now.
I think he's gotta
yeah, we need, and frankly, it's not fair to judge him off. We have to,
Right.
But it's not fair to him to judge him off of one playoff series. Like he's going to make mistakes.
Right,
It's his
sure.
first time, and the hope is. I mean, look at Mike Brown. I think Mike Brown is a sensational coach.
doing a great job in Sacramento.
He's
We
doing a
talked about it
great
yesterday.
job. Yeah, and I went and spent time with him and wrote a big story on him. Even when he was in Cleveland, he knew the X's and O's, but he didn't really relate to players. And it took him time to sort of figure it out and figure out how to do this. And there are things JB does really well and other things that he's got to figure out and get better at. And it's just in the NBA, a lot of times you don't have time to wait on guys to figure it out.
Is he? All right. I mean, I have to have a comparison. Is he a better coach than Nate McMillan?
JB?
Yeah.
I mean,
All right. So if you go, and I don't want to say this.
I would take JB over Nate McMillan.
Okay.
Yes.
So in the pecking order, it's Mike Brown, Mike Woodson, or we just say Nate McMillan. Is he a better coach?
I take
over all those guys.
I would take Mike Brown over all of them. I take Mike over JB.
Okay.
I think Mike is.
He's made Sacramento relevant for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, all these guys except David Blatt are phenomenal, and know what they're doing, and know X's and O's, and know they're all so good. But I was with Mike when he came back the second time. He and I were at a hotel in Vegas, and he was like running through plays, and we had like a napkin dispenser and salt shakers, and he's diagramming things. And
Scene from a movie.
I am by no means a basketball savant, but I can like keep up with schemes and ideas, and he was 5 steps ahead. He was like, okay, wait, you slow it. You got to come back. You lost me. And he talked for them like, okay, wait a minute. You got to back up. You lost me. The way Mike's brain operates and his mind works is phenomenal. It was just unfortunate that he didn't really connect with guys. He got screwed here. He never should have been fired the second time.
Yeah.
And I'm thrilled for him that he's having success. He's in Sacramento. I would put Mike Brown, I would put him on that tier 1, tier 2 level, like right on the threshold. If you go back and look at his, I don't know why we're spending so much time on Mike.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Go
my
ahead.
fault.
Final fault on it.
But if you look at his winning percentage for number of games, I think it's 500 games coached, which is a pretty high bar. That's a lot of games.
Yeah.
He's in like the top 5, top 10 all time in coaches.
Really quickly.
a lot of it with LeBron.
Well, I mean, Phil Jackson had Kobe and Michael.
Fair.
You got to have stars to be that high.
There's a guy on the staff that has been a couple times coach. He was a hot candidate for a long time. Luke Walton. Is there any chance that he's the Ty Lue to a Blatt in case or if this happened, or they don't see him as a guy like that?
No. Ty was to Blatt what JB was to Beeline.
Gotcha.
JB was the
He was
great
that
glass
guy.
in case of emergency.
Okay.
Luke, I like Luke a lot. I've known Luke since he played here. I don't think he's looked at as that savior guy. Frankly, I don't think he would get the job if they fired
He had a
JB.
really bad tenure
That
with the
was
Lakers
bad.
and
That was
Sacramento.
ugly.
Like
Yeah.
really
Really
bad.
ugly.